From the outside looking in, the mature INFJ and the immature INFJ could be perceived as completely different personality types. In fact, sometimes an immature INFJ can mistype themselves due to their inability to relate to the traits and habits of their positively functioning counterpart. So, the question is, what's the real difference between the two? And how do you know if you're particularly mature or immature in your personality type? Welcome, or welcome back, psychos! Before we get into today's video, we'd love it if you liked and subscribed to our channel, as well as to click the post notification bell so you never miss a video. Alright, let's jump right into it, starting with number 1. Pushy viewpoints versus true understanding. When the INFJ first begins to uncover the answers to the deep questions they have, they can feel seriously obligated to share their discoveries with other people. In fact, this is one of the great things about having this uniquely imaginative creature in your social circle. However, it's only a favorable trait when they know how to use it. For when it comes to the less mature INFJ, they may take it upon themselves to push their views onto other people for the sake of helping or even awakening them to a new level or perception. They may get caught up in pushing concepts that their friends and family aren't interested in or willing to hear. For example, if an INFJ falls into a rabbit hole of why a certain everyday food is disease-causing, they can feel anxiously responsible for convincing everyone they love to stop consuming that food. Even if it really is for their benefit, this approach only ends up stirring a pot that didn't need stirring. Healthy INFJs have the ability to provoke personal reflection in other people through simple questions and hypothetical topics. They don't feel obligated to convince others of the way they see it, but rather present them with information to perceive and decipher themselves. When an INFJ realizes the power in the information they discover and the importance they place on it compared to other people, they begin to understand that not everyone is deserving of it. They don't avoid sharing out of spite, but rather out of a protection of their energy. However, once someone comes along that wants to pick at their brain, they better know they're in for a wild ride. Number 2. Other people's feelings. The first and most noticeable difference between a mature INFJ and a so-called immature INFJ is all in the way of how they let other people's feelings affect them. While all INFJs have a habit of involuntarily feeling and even absorbing other people's emotions to some degree, there's a big difference between how these two INFJs use this information. For the immature or burnt-out INFJ, the feelings and moods of the people around them can take a massive toll on their own mood. This can result in them changing their entire emotional state when influenced by the people around them. In fact, they can become so influenced simply by the presence of people's silent moods that they can feel obligated to make certain decisions in order to make other people happy. Whether the absorbed mood was painted in a positive or negative light, sometimes the unhealthy INFJ can end up regretting things they did when under the influence of an emotion that wasn't their own to begin with. This sense of control can, over time, make them vulnerable to controlling relationships in all aspects of life. The healthy INFJ, on the other hand, is able to feel others' emotions on an empathetic level while still being able to differentiate them from their own feelings. They're able to make decisions solely based on their own values and independent thinking instead of being bombarded by others' guilt, excitement, sadness, and anger. It's fair to say that this maturity doesn't come without a few harsh lessons. But once the INFJ realizes the strength of their intuition and personal power, they can take people's feelings into account like no other, with a silver lining protecting what they personally think is right. Number 3. Their perspective of their abilities. In relation to how the INFJ personality type navigates their ability of separating their own emotions from other people's, it all comes down to their highly intuitive and empathic abilities. Most INFJs are considered highly sensitive beings, mostly due to their hyper-awareness of their surroundings. Because of this uncanny ability of noticing the unnoticeable, predicting the unpredictable, and attracting people that need the most help in life, INFJs are considered to have a gift that not many other people experience. However, for the unhealthy INFJ, these abilities don't feel like gifts at all. For this intuitive type to truly understand the potential and power of their capabilities, they must first embrace the advantages they bring. But it's not as easy as it seems. When an INFJ doesn't know any better, their differences can seem not only burdensome, but even debilitating in some aspects of life. An immature INFJ can see these blessings as a curse, or as an obligation that they don't fully understand how to execute. Because of this, they can come down seriously hard on themselves for being so different from others, or worse, try and take measures to silence their burning gifts. For the INFJ who is considered more mature, however, these differences are viewed only as strengths. They have no desire to fit into the world around them any more than necessary, and they don't dumb down their skills to meet the needs of others. The mature INFJ eventually steps into their own power by utilizing their skills and abiding by their personal requirements for rest and recharging. Number 4. Anxiety levels. Another telltale difference between the mature INFJ and the immature INFJ is seen in their day-to-day levels of anxiety. Now, of course, some general anxiety disorders can be considered hereditary and unavoidable, but for some INFJ cases, anxiety can be a direct product of sensory overload, emotional burnout, and a misunderstanding of their needs. I mean, anxiety is nothing new to any INFJ person. For example, since people with the INFJ personality type are inclined to analyze the people around them on such a deep level, they can feel as if they're constantly being analyzed to the same degree, thinking it's a natural human tendency. Sure, people are curious, but nobody analyzes like the INFJ themselves. And so, when this type is caught up in the thought of the entire population being as observant as them without the empathy to back it up, it can make them rightfully apprehensive. Without the understanding that not everyone is as interested in figuring other people out as they are, anxiety can creep up anytime, anywhere, making social interactions somewhat unpredictable. For the healthy INFJ, however, life just isn't all that serious anymore. When this intuitive type really spends the time figuring out the source of their anxiety, they begin to realize it's rooted in needs being unmet. Although anxiety still creeps up, the mature INFJ is able to reason with themselves rather than being controlled by their instinctual reaction. Plus, once this type can embrace their uniqueness and depth, like many other types, their confidence can overpower almost any anxiety. Number 5. A social balance. We said at INFJs, a social life is actually quite beneficial for you. Although the idea of spending days on end cooped up in imagination may sound like the ideal life, social interactions and observation is a must for any INFJ. Not only does a balanced social life allow this analytical type to collect new information to daydream about on their own time, but it also fulfills the natural curiosity all INFJs have for human behavior. It's a need that shouldn't be ignored, but most often is, especially for the notably immature INFJ. It's fair to say that, when it comes down to it, socializing and getting out there is daunting to everyone with this introverted type. But when an INFJ has become too comfortable with turning down socializing opportunities, it can end up creating habits that are even more difficult to shake. Over time, this immature tendency can result in the INFJ self-sabotaging opportunities in love, career, family, and life experiences, all for the sake of their need for solitude. On the opposite end of the spectrum is the mature INFJ who can decipher the opportunities they feel called towards and the ones they know to stay far away from. Although most people with this intuitive type tend to be overthinkers, the considered, more mature counterparts seem to better know when they should push themselves to socialize for their benefit. Sure, they still set their boundaries, turn down a few invites, and maybe even cancel a few last-minute plans, but overall, they don't let the hermit energy consume them and hold them back from life's opened doors. Well, that wraps up today's video, psychos. So, if you're an INFJ, do you think you're leaning towards the healthy or unhealthy side according to these 5 differences? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to leave us a like, share this video with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a video.